All right, let's now get our editor, Sophie Mokoena, who is joining us now on the line to just give us more details when it comes to the lives which have been lost. Sophie, of course, really tragic news coming in this evening when it comes to what has taken place in Goma. Maybe just bring us up to speed with what we know so far.
Well, we know that fighting has intensified in the eastern part of the DRC. We've been reporting about this tension and escalation, but it really intensified in the past few days. Now, you have a situation where the M23 rebels are moving towards Goma because they want to capture Goma. They've already captured many cities in the eastern part, and they know that if they can capture Goma, that means you have weakened the DRC government, and therefore this is what they've been doing in the past few days. Now, the contingent that is constituted by different forces from the SADC region, we're trying to repel them or push back. Unfortunately, it looks like they are well armed, and they were able then to launch massive attacks. And at the end of the day, we are talking about these South African soldiers who have died. It's not only South African soldiers who have died. We've just received a message that 3 soldiers from Malawi have also died, but we don't know. You have Burundians there, and you have Tanzanians there, so we don't know other countries. They are not as open as South Africa is, much as there was that delay, but now we know what happened. And therefore, and that is why when you go back to April last year, when Rwanda was commemorating 30 years of the genocide, we spoke to President Ramaphosa in Kigali, in Rwanda, after he met Paul Kagame, because Kagame has been accused of supporting the M23 rebels. The president accepted that military will not be a lasting solution. You have to engage in diplomatic processes, because the war will not end that standoff. We spoke to Paul Kagame during that time. He said the same thing, even indicating that the DRC government is harboring people who committed genocide in Burundi, and clearly if you in the DRC. So if you have that kind of a standoff, clearly it will be very difficult to control that border. And then secondly, the former South African President Thabo Mbeki, spoke to him. He was also there. He met President Ramaphosa. They spoke about this issue. Now, he pointed out, you'd recall the Sun City talks when Joseph Kabila, Rwanda, Paul Kagame, and other leaders in the Great Lakes region came to South Africa to talk about trying to find a lasting solution in terms of peace in the DRC. There was an agreement signed. That agreement, if that agreement was implemented, DRC will not be where it is today. Now the question is, how can you ensure that you go back, you look at that agreement, maybe you make changes here and there because you have new leadership in the DRC. You try and find a solution between DRC and Rwanda and other countries in the region like Uganda, because it's a problem for the Great Lakes region, and you are able to move forward. But it looks like President Tshisekedi is not willing. You know, there's East Africa nations, because DRC is part of East Africa as well. They had soldiers there, they had peacekeeping force there. He expelled them. He expelled the MONUSCO, which is the UN peacekeeping force. And then he requested SADC to assist. Here is SADC now in a crisis, having lost so many soldiers. This is the heavy loss for the region, but also for South Africa in particular.
And Sophie, what do you make of the deaths of these members from the SANDF just a few days after the Defence Minister, Angie Motshekga, went to the DRC on a state visit?
Yes, she went to the DRC. You would recall our colleague Kaya Kumalo had an exclusive interview with the minister before her departure to the DRC, and she did, because the interview did focus more on the peacekeeping on the continent. And she left, and she was in Kinshasa. I called on Friday the team to try and check whether she can't speak to us, give us an update. We were told that she's getting a proper briefing by different stakeholders in Kinshasa, and she will then fly to Goma to try and go to the eastern part to meet the soldiers. Unfortunately, she couldn't. I mean, when you talk about what has happened now, what we hear that these soldiers were killed on Friday, there was no way the minister would have gone to Goma, and that's the area that they want to capture, these M23 rebels. Now she flew back to the country today. That's why there was this delay of issuing a statement, because she had to be in South Africa to issue such a statement, but importantly, to give the Commander-in-Chief a briefing, that is President Ramaphosa. So I think on the margins of the National Executive of the ANC, there was that kind of a briefing to President Ramaphosa before you release such information. There's no way the minister or the technocrats can release this information without the knowledge of the Commander-in-Chief.
All right, Sophie, thank you so much for that very important update. That is Sophie Mokoena. She is SABC International News Editor, also there, just giving us more and very important information when it comes to the deaths of the 9 SANDF members.